us, and so I wrote that. And then literally like 2 minutes before we were gonna go out, she was like, you know what, let's not do that. Let's just go out there and then announce the nominees.
Oh my God.
And I was like, Jennifer, it's like, I felt, because like I, gotten the whole organization, they're all excited to do it. So like, I was like, okay, all right, well, are you sure? And she's like, yeah, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. So then we went out there, and then suddenly I saw it on the teleprompter. I had to do it. So you can see she was like for a second, I could tell she was annoyed, but I think she was, I don't know, people laughed, so it worked out okay. They laughed at my jokes. I don't know if they laughed at hers. Poor thing. Poor Jennifer Aniston.
The next, Michael he and his friends give each other fun places in their films. I mean, I was watching this zombie movie, and I had no idea that Michael would be on the toilet, attacked by a zombie on the toilet. And you see, that's my son on the toilet with a zombie chasing him.
He didn't write that one, did he?
No, he didn't.
That was directed by my former assistant. He was like, I'd love you to do a cameo in my movie. And I was like, sure. And then I got there, I was like, oh, this is like a revenge ass. Yeah, but
he's gotten a lot of young guys doing films on their own. It's pretty exciting. This place, we have a sound problem on this one clip, but I want you to see it because it's Michael's guest appearance on Pushing Daisies. Oh, yeah. And it's the very best costuming I've ever seen. And his ending is unbelievable. Can you put this by that?
I will try.
And then they like take me out into the middle of the lot, like the Universal lot, and they're like hosing me down in my underwear. And then like we'd have to do multiple shots, and it was one of those things where like this seemed like a fun little lark and turned into like this is the worst thing I've ever done in my life. And I honestly, because I had to like submerge and then come out from it, like it was like, and it was the most claustrophobic I've ever been, because it would suck onto you like it was, but I survived. I have not seen that clip since we shot it. So.
I keep the fun archives. He just moves on, and then I bring him out to show. This is when he was a guest on The Dog Whisperer.
We're hardcore about training the dogs, and there were times where I was like, he just would go off on like, George Bush and dogs, and like all these, and they're camera like looking at the producers like, is this? Are you using this? Like, what is this? But he was a very, and his kids, he brought in his kids to be the like skateboarders, and they'd never been in the show before, and he treated his kids the same way he treated my dogs. It was like, you stand over there, move there. Like it was like he's a natural disciplinarian, which I wouldn't say about myself.
John Kasdan was going, and just what happened to John?
We were going to go as like neurotic screenwriters, and he turned out to be too neurotic. You have to meet with a psychologist before they'll let you go on, and you take a test, and we had to meet with him, and the psychologist was like, you really score high with anxiety, like you may be too anxious to go on this. And he's like, I know, I'm anxious. And she was like, well, are you afraid to fly? Or he's like, no, I'm more afraid my bowel movements won't be regular. She's like, yeah, you're probably too nervous to go. And then he got up and left. And I was like, we were down to the last like 17 teams, and they were taking 11. And so I was really bummed. But then the casting directors were like, we really want you to go. So they came to a party at my house and kind of scoped it out to see who would be a good partner for me. And at the end of the night, they were like, you got to go with your dad. And I was like, oh, I knew I shouldn't have invited him.
Tell him about my test.
Well, it's sort of unbelievable, since if you watch these reality shows, you can't imagine that anyone could fail a psychological test. But then my dad sort of failed his too. Like, we had to meet with a psychologist, and they were like, you come off very paranoid. And I guess this connects to Soulforce. And he's like, well, he's, it's almost like you are an African American youth who you score like African American youth who grow up in like, the ghettos where people are trying to shoot them all day. He's like, well, people are trying to kill me. I get letters every day. People are trying to kill me. And the woman was like, really? And he's like, well, what else does it say? And she said, sometimes you said here you've had visions. He's like, well, I was imprisoned for my activism, and I went on a hunger strike, and after 7 days, I started to see my heroes in the jail cell with me. Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King. I mean, I know they weren't there, but it was like they were there. And I'm like, Dad, why are you doing what? Are you and he's like, what did it say about Mike? I'm sure he, She's like, no, he scored fine. And he's like, he's lying. He's just doing this to make him look good on the test. And somehow we still slipped by. I think because he was a septuagenarian, they thought, well, what can he really do? He's not going to shoot anybody.
Take a look.
What this clip doesn't show is that my dad had a senior moment. That couple that we were racing against dropped their little fanny pack, and you can't check in without it. And my dad thought it was ours and put it on our gypsy cart. So as they ran to go check in first, they realized they didn't have their thing, and they came running back. They were looking for it, and at that point we'd already taken off, and we got to check in. It wasn't cheating because my dad did leave it in front of our gypsy cart, but it was a controversial moment. We did not give them the trip though.
From that on, every time I look for a fanny pack that I could pick up, carry with me, I say, ha ha. Let's look at this last one.
That's it?
That's it.
Quite an intro, Mel.
Well, this last one is in India.
In this roadblock, one person must work in the shadow of this Maharaja fort.
No, but it was what was great about the Amazing Race, besides just the experience that we had together, was through in Soulforce and through his activism, my dad has always been just trying to prove that gay people can be great fathers and great citizens and great people, and that some of the bigotry or discrimination that goes on is something that he's been trying to be the poster child for the good citizen, the good gay citizen. And what the show did in a weird way was it accomplished something that that was just as effective as all those years of activism, because people saw him and fell in love with him and saw what he what a great father he was, and I do think that the show had a huge impact, especially then people could see to this day people are like, how's your father? He's so cute. You guys were so cute on the race, and so that was cool, and just to bring it back to Soulforce and the important work that it does and continues to do, and so I'm happy to be here as a supporter of Soulforce.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks a lot, Mike. Pam and Judy, would you come up here? So thank you for coming, you guys. I have a present for you, an award.
Oh my.
But I thought the little plastic thing. No, I thought you wouldn't like those little plastic things to add to your trophies. Or those little plaques you put on the wall.
Maybe a bobblehead.
I thought, no, I'm going to take you out to the most expensive dinner you can get, and you're going to pay. But it'll be a wonderful honor. I want you to give this woman a hand. She was there from the beginning. I want to introduce you one. We're going to just have a quick wrap here that's really important, because you've come in the name of Soulforce. The other man who I want to honor tonight is this guy, Chuck Phelan. Chuck has been our board chair for how many years now?
Oh, more years than I can count.
Yeah.
About 10.
He came on as our PowerPoint operator volunteer. And so he's operating the PowerPoint, and one day he says to me, we could have our board meeting at our office.
See how they suck you in?
And so we went up to this high-rise in Glendale and met this amazing staff that he has, this huge team. They build television studios for ESPN and all these things. And here this little guy who is my PowerPoint operator is setting up major electronic things across the world. Chuck, it reminded me of that story that I'm going to tell for the last time right now. You'll never hear it again. It comes from the great conductor Leonard Bernstein's life. Lenny had just finished conducting a symphony. This is from his biography. And everybody was cheering except one woman who was sitting down and sulking. And she said to her cheering partner, "Haven't you heard? Lenny's a homo." And the woman turned and said to her, "Is there anything that man can't do?" So, Chuck, I think of you when I think of that story.
I'm not going to ask how exactly.
But we're so glad you're here, and we are so glad that you're going to have a chance just to take a quick look at Soulforce and then have some more food.
Okay.
Yeah, Pam and Judy, I was going to say if I can get you guys to step to the side only because this is my operating position when I can make the DVD recorder work. I just want to play several people here tonight who were invited through meeting Mel and Gary down in Long Beach. Don't know a lot about Soulforce. I know many of you do, so there's a wide range of people that know and don't know. So I wanted to start out with a little bit of a piece that is, you may have seen because it's on the homepage of our website. But it's short, but I think it says a lot about what Soulforce does, and then I'll talk a little bit about it in just a minute. Families, too. The Equality Ride, which you're going to learn more about, of which we're about to have our 5th one, isn't it, Haven? 6th? Okay, I missed one somewhere. It's what happens when you get to be my age. But it's the same thing we've been doing for 15 years, and we couldn't do it without the support of folks like you and folks all over the country and all over the world. So I just want to thank you for being here, and I want to introduce you to Haven Herron, who's our Deputy Director, who will tell you a little more about what Soulforce is up to today.
Hi everyone, I'm Haven Herron. I'm the Deputy Director of Soulforce, and Mel, thanks for bringing me into this wonderful, beautiful, chaotic mess. I'm addicted. 8 years later, here I am. I got involved with Soulforce, and it was very much because of this guy. 8 years ago, there was this young kid named Jake Rayton who came around to schools to just rally up some LGBTQ folks and said, "What do you think it would look like if for a day we went to Jerry Falwell's Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia?" And I thought, well, I do not know the answer to that, but I think I would like to know. And so we got this huge group of young folks together. Totally didn't really know what we were getting into, but I think that that's something that Soulforce does. They say, where's the uncomfortable edge? All right, let's go there and kind of teeter off the edge of that. Because I think that we make the world wider for new and different kinds of activism. That's what we did with denominational work. That's what we did with megachurches. That's what we're doing with really conservative fundamentalist colleges and universities. And we were having this, so we're getting ready to go to Liberty. We're having this conversation. We're like, okay, it's the night before. We're going to go on campus. Jerry's been saying that we're just going to get arrested, and we're there for the media, and we just, all these ulterior motives and painting us in these pictures. And so the question comes, we're going to go on campus. They say they're going to arrest us. What do we do? At that moment, do we turn away? At that moment, do we walk on campus? And I really had not done that much activism, but I had this little gut intuition that was like, well, it seems to me if we let Jerry define what our actions mean, we've just forfeited all of our power. And what are we doing here anyway? So it seems like I want to go on campus. And I think that is, to me, that is the beating heart of Soulforce, is that really quixotic and unconventional relationship to power. Here I am, 22-year-old Haven. I don't know about activism, but Jerry Falwell, guess what? I'm coming. Right? And, to me, that was such a visceral moment of, I am so powerful. I'm so powerful because I simply am going to show up And I'm not going to let this idea of Jerry Falwell tell me who I get to be in the world and tell me what my actions mean. I know why I'm going on campus. I'm going on campus because there are closeted students who will walk up to us and whisper behind our ear and say, I'm one of you. Thank you for being here. Pass us notes. You know, when you get passed a note that says, I could never do this, thank you, that kind of, it embeds in your heart a little bit. And you're thinking, wow, like, yeah, I am in a place in the world in which I can be there. I can show up. I can make presidents like Jerry Falwell uncomfortable, and not everyone can. And so I carry that, and I've carried that for 8 years with a lot of pride and with a lot of humility. We do a lot of work going to these schools, not just because there's closeted staff and closeted students and people struggling and all these bad politics going on. We also go because the foundations, the wealthiest foundations of the religious right in this country, more than any other political entity, more than legal aid, more than think tanks, they're funding scholarships and they're funding universities. They know that this is a key piece of their apparatus. And so we have to go there and we have to shake it up. So we're going to show just one more video of what one piece of Soulforce's works look like. This is the Equality Ride work. This is our national tours that go and visit these schools. And this is one more way of going to the source of the problem, turning power on its ear, and creating something new.
The activist known as Soulforce.
The Equality Ride kind of is just outsized because it's so big. It's such an undertaking. There's so much media around it, you know, and it really does systemic change work that, you know, 20 people travel the country, but you are rattling the cages of, you know, 60 and 70,000 students. So big impact, so big size. But I also want to recognize that we have a lot of other programs going on. We've got Linda. Hey, Linda. So Linda's running the delegate program, which is our way of offering training and resources to activists doing really cool things like talking about race and religion and immigration, and doing work to support, you know, transgender people, undocumented LGBTQ folks, really doing that fascinating kind of cross-sectional work. We've got Esme Rodriguez back here. Hey. Esme will be leading our kind of next generation Equality Ride work, as well as running symposia. So, for example, up in San Francisco, if any of y'all are going to be there, make sure you check in with our website. We're going to have a symposium, which is like a conference for building our movement and, you know, giving ourselves the time to reflect. And we'll be talking about things like class and bodies and gender and religion as well, in just a really mixed, diverse space. So we've got all kinds of things going on. Next weekend I'm going to a denominational group gathering, and they're kind of like, you know, now that we have our own LGBTQ groups and we're kind of running our own show in the Methodist Church, we kind of think we want some of that old Soulforce style direct action. Could you come and teach us how to do that? So, you know, it's really nice to see it going full circle. We move into sort of solidarity partnership. We also lead, you know, we find ourselves having a really great expertise and a capacity to both lead and partner and step back in all the right ways. So really cool projects going on. You know, I think to really talk about what is an important year for Soulforce, you know, we're 15 years old this year. And we have to sit back and reflect on, okay, what has our work taught us? You know, we've gone to these extremely hostile conservative places. What have we learned? What have we created? Well, we've created over 40 LGBTQ student groups at these really conservative schools. We've helped found a coalition of LGBTQ alumni groups, 120 folks strong. We've seen, you know, so many LGBT groups crop up within denominations. We've changed 14 policies at these schools. You know, so the measurables are all there, right? But what we're really taking away from all of this work of 15 years is we notice that there's a real set of politics that shows up over and over and over again. And that shows us that it's there's a real kernel of thought in there around fundamentalism. It's not just a coincidence that it looks the same all over this country, whether we're here at California Baptist in Los Angeles or, you know, we're out at Notre Dame. It's really quite eerily similar. And so what's that teaching us is that we really have to get at that real nugget of thought and all the ways that it shows up in our lives, whether that looks like homophobia or transphobia, racism, classism. These things are serving the same master, and that's what we're going after. So to continue going after that source, we're going to keep digging at that thought, that culture of thought around fundamentalism. And we're going to be talking about things like race and class and gender and sexuality, because we are a diverse community of LGBTQ folks. And oppression shows up in our lives in all different kinds of ways. And I think Soulforce was founded with an incredible mission to end religion-based oppression of LGBTQ people. And that has phenomenally positioned us to see how religion is the fifth estate and how religion is working across all of these oppressions in ways overt and covert. And I think in this moment we have where, okay, so the military stuff has somewhat shifted and the marriage stuff has somewhat shifted. Where are we at in this movement? You know, what comes next? Where do we grow? Where do we deepen? I think where we're needing to deepen is in those alliances and in those partnerships across issues and recognizing the complexity of LGBTQ experience. And religion for us has been that phenomenal illumination and insight into the connections between those issues. So that's where we're leading, that's where we're going. And I think that this is a really great time and moment for Soulforce to lead into those matters of the heart and the soul and the connections and the partnerships. And as you can imagine, that's a funny pill to swallow for some folks. They're like, oh, you do religion and you talk to these really conservative people and I don't know how you do that and I don't know how I feel about religion and ew, it treated me bad. Oh my goodness, you have all these young people running around in charge and and now you want to talk about race and class and oh my goodness, you know, but that for us is integrity and we're not giving that up. And we need your support because I think you all, after seeing this, you get it. You see why it's important. You see why this leadership is necessary for the next phase of the LGBTQ movement. So as you are thinking about what you might be able to give, whether that is your time, I have 1,001 opportunities for volunteering. So let me know because that is a way to give to Soulforce. But if you are thinking of a financial gift to Soulforce, I want to plant a couple numbers. 1, 225. That's the number of distinctly Christian, very conservative colleges and universities. 225. Churning out 1, disproportionate number of White House interns. 2, the most senators in the country. Important stuff, right? Another number I want to plant, 101. That's the number of schools we've managed to actually get to. That's where we go. And it's not easy. It requires a lot of training. You got to throw down the Bible if you're going to work with Soulforce, right? So that takes some training. So as you were thinking of what you might want to give and why you feel passionate about Soulforce, connect with me, connect with Linda, connect with Esme. We're here to answer questions. We're here to welcome your gifts with open arms. And so thank you so much for being here today, celebrating the work of Mike, celebrating the work of Mel, celebrating where Soulforce is going in the next 15 years. Thanks so much.
And from Steve and I, thank you so much for coming also, and I hope you'll stay for a while, not only to bless us with anything you might wish to bless us with, all of which is appreciated and we'll put to good use, but to just have some fellowship, enjoy some more food and grog. And just to say so long, I'd like to, from the program part, like turn the mic over to a guy who started something incredible 15 years ago that I know is going to be here 15 years from now and 50 years from now. And it's doing important work. And I thank you, Mel, for what you and Gary did all those many years ago. Thanks for dragging me into it.
One last story. The first time we decided to take on the United Methodists with all of their Wesleyan background, all of their activist background, still not ordaining us, still not marrying us, and at the last conference they allowed local pastors to deny membership to gay people who want to get into their church. So the United Methodists, one of our biggest and most liberal churches, is still caught on the fundamentalist stick. And all the rest of those, Assembly of God, Nazarene, Church, all of these things, none of them has had any kind of real touch yet. So our first time was at Cleveland, Ohio, and we had we had an amazing time. We had 250 people arrested after we closed down their convention, and then the policeman said, "We don't have enough jails for you." So I said, "All right, what are you going to do?" "We're going to put you in jails outside of town." So on the way, I'll never forget all these queer ladies, these wonderful lesbiterians, singing "Get Me to the Church on Time." And then one of them leaned forward and said through the glass to the driver, "We're hungry. This is a long drive." And so all of a sudden we see him pulling in to a McDonald's parking lot. And he opens the door in the back and says, "If you tell anybody that I fed you on this, you're going to be in deep trouble." On that arrest day, Dr. King's daughter was with us, Yolanda. Arun Gandhi's grandson, was with us. I asked Gandhi after being arrested, "How is the difference about being arrested in India and being arrested here?" He said, "I've never been arrested before." So we're introducing the Gandhis to activism. Last part, one lady kept coming up to me and handing me money. She said, "This is for bailing you out." And she'd they'd go to the ATM and get a handful of 20s. And so as I was watching the last one go, I always am the last one to get arrested because I want to make sure everybody has the opportunity. And she came running up to me again, and I reached out to get it, and she stopped, and she said, "Not now, this is for me." She was 87 years old, and she was arrested, and she was so proud. And every time you give a dime to this place, it liberates little people like that across the country. So thanks for coming. Eat up the rest of the food. I think there's some dessert. And know that you're loved just for being here.
Good night. Thank you for dragging your dad around the world so we could all, twice, yes. And most especially Lila, please stand up. Thank you so much, Lila Blake, for welcoming us here into your home. We are in debt to you and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, it's tax deductible.